So SIMGOT just made a planar hybrid with a PZT in it, and it is very great technically. But just like every IEM, it's not going to be perfect, and I will be giving these away as well as another one and some other stuff throughout this week until New Year's, because it is Christmas. So, you know, happy holidays, guys. And in order to win, just be a subscriber, comment below, and just hit the like button. I'm going to be drawing random comments throughout every video, and you know, good luck everyone. But starting with the sound, if you enjoyed the original tuning of the S12s, then you're going to love these. The 142 sounds like a matured and slightly more detailed version of the original S12s. Now the difference isn't going to be huge since tonal wise both are very similar in their DNA, as the ET142 is also a bright leaning, you know, all-rounder sound. It's lively, it's slightly energetic, but the difference now is that you get slightly more micro nuances when it comes to like the cymbal crashes. Still maintains that lively and glimmery sound signature. Timbre wise, this is obviously a planar, so just like every planar, it's gonna have that like slight lightness and openness to the sound that some people like and some people don't. But the part that really surprised me was that the treble actually doesn't sound like planar-y. It's not very sizzly, it's not overly sizzly, I would say. Like when I compare it to the S12s, the T10s, or the Shozi P20s, those are audibly more like planar to me, whereas the ET142 doesn't have that obvious planar sizzle signature. The cymbal strikes feels like harder in the attack. It doesn't feel as like sizzly, and there's more bite to the notes. Now if you put the ET142 up against something like the Sony MBAs or like a DD or like a real ESTs, they're still not gonna be as, you know, quote unquote natural as them, but they do remind me more of the SuperMix 4 in the way that it's a very well implemented PZT. It has that like slight bite to the notes. Now some people will find the 2K to be too shouty, just like on the original S12s, and if you're listening at higher volumes past 70-75 dBs plus, you're gonna find these to be a little bit too bright because the vocals can get pretty forward when it comes to like just the overall sound on top of the treble. The overall sound is colored to be brighter and more energetic. The treble is obviously boosted past Harman, so when it comes to certain genres like hip-hop, R&B, rock, those will sound brighter and quote-unquote less natural than usual if you're coming from like a warmer or darker set like the S08 or the S15. So if you do prefer the more relaxed 2K gain on the S08, the S15, and the more laid-back style of tuning, then the 142 is not going to be the set for you, because it is going to be more exciting and more sparkly. I suggest SIMGOT to take one of the nozzles and tame the 2K region for one of them, because both nozzles right now sound pretty much the same. They graph pretty much the same. They're probably just a replacement unit in case you lose it. So this would be a good opportunity for SIMGOT to bring more value to the 142 by providing a more different tuning sound signature, kind of like the Timeless 2, which I will review next week, which has different nozzles and different sounds. The ET142 is also pretty tip dependent, I would say, and I just did a video on how important tips are, so definitely tip roll and just play around with the tips when it comes to the overall sound. I highly recommend these with these Sankai Ys, the ones that I'm using right now, since the ET142 already has enough energy in the treble and it doesn't need more and like any more like energy. So tips like the Asla Sennas, which boost the treble a lot more, just becomes a bit too much unless you are a treble head. The stock silicon tips can also be a bit sharp and not as smooth as the Sankais. So for the vast majority of people, I would recommend choosing the Sankai Ys. But 2K gain aside, SIMGOT did tame the 5 to 6K region as well as the 8K region when you compare it to the original S12s, which some people like myself found a bit like sharp and fatiguing, especially when it comes to even more like energetic tracks. Vocals are also nicely open and extended. They're very enjoyable when it comes to like female artists, as the extra air and, you know, little energy adds a little bit of like shimmer and sweetness to the sound. However, this also does mean that they can get a bit much when it comes to more energetic tracks like Butterfly by Luna or Say It by Yoshika, where there tends to be a lot of electronic elements, and when they all come up at once, it does get a little bit sharp. So genre wise, stuff like rock, indie, you know, slower pop songs like Birds of a Feather will work a lot better on the ET142, and just overall it's really good when it comes to like slower stuff. Sounds very engaging, open, and detailed. K-pop and J-pop also still sound lively and thumpy at mid volume. It's not too energetic if you don't turn it up too loud, so we're talking around like 60-65 dBs or so. Just don't blast these since the treble will get a bit fatiguing. It's not a high volume set. Low wise, the ET142 is solid, the slam is there, it's punchy, the attack is sharp, and the decay feels very fast. It never bleeds into the mids. Very good separation when it comes to the overall like presentation of the instruments. Bassline is very detailed, and overall it's just a good balanced low end. Obviously it's not going to like out slam or out rumble with something with a dedicated dynamic driver like the DUSK. You're not going to get as much reverb in the bass notes. It's not going to linger or prolong or be drawn out as much as the DUSK, for example. It's a lot quicker, a lot tighter instead, you know, better separation and layering, no scoops, and it's not light or pillowy either. So overall, the low end just, you know, it does its job. It's punchy, it's good. Don't expect crazy, you know, boom boom bass or insane like texture, reverb, or vibration, stuff like that, like the Origin, for example, because you shouldn't be getting the ET142 for its, I guess, you know, bass. It is more of a technical, bright leaning set. It has a unique take on the planar treble, and if you want a livelier sound, this is what you should be buying it for. Now, versus some other planars, the ET142 is the best I've heard so far in terms of technical performance while maintaining enough, I guess, like planarness without going like sizzle city. Now, tuning wise, again, if you prefer something more laid back in the vocals, then the S08, the S15, and the S12 2024 would all be the better fit. Whereas if you like something more lively, you like something more exciting, energetic, more technical, then the 142 will be the better pick for that. And value wise, the original T10s, the original S12s, as well as the Planars, the F1 Pros, those are going to be cheaper while punching pretty close. But if you simply just want the best traditionally tuned planar, you know, if you're coming from the T10s, you're coming from the S12s with that similar sound signature, then the 142 would be like a slightly technical version and a slightly more refined version with the Senkai wide tips. On the other hand, if you're looking for something that is not as bright, you know, something bassier but still well balanced, arguably better in the timbre, then the T Pros, the Hype 4s are still fantastic options. In terms of the low end texture, impact, and reverb, those are still going to be a step ahead over the ET142s, whereas detail and tech wise, these have a slight edge over them, and it is also cheaper, so in that sense it is more technical and I guess the better value when you compare it to the more expensive $300-$400 sets. Now, versus the DUSK, the ET142 actually has less sizzle when it comes to the treble, because I guess they're not using planar for the treble, they're using the PZTs, whereas the DUSK has two microplanars. And tech wise, it's also very similar. I would say depending on the unit you get, it's either a slight edge to the ET142s or the DUSK, again depending on unit variants. But sound wise, the ET142 is going to be livelier, it's going to be more engaging, more energetic, and not as lean when it comes to low end. It's going to have more like bass impact, you're going to feel the low end a little bit more. Vocal wise, the DUSK will still be better for K-pop and J-pop because of the TIMBRE upper mids. It's going to sound smoother, less fatiguing, less like in your face. And versus the PILGRIM, if you want a clean balanced sound, then the PILGRIM will still do that sound better. It's less bright, it's less energetic, it's more, you know, natural or like neutral, right? It's tamer when it comes to vocals, it's not as in your face. But the trade-off is that the PILGRIM does lack the airiness and excitement from the treble details versus the ET142, and it's not going to be as engaging and I guess energetic as the ET142 if that is what you're looking for. And tech wise, they're also around the same, maybe a slight edge to the ET142. Then versus the EM10, the 142 would be a good side grade if you want more energy and brightness to the sound. The EM10s are more, you know, harmon, they're more balanced, they're the safer all-rounder pick, whereas the 142 is the brighter leaning, more exciting sound signature. Tech wise, the EM10 is slightly better and also smoother and better balanced. Again, it is the safer all-rounder pick. However, this also does mean that it doesn't have the same, you know, sparkle, liveliness that those who like the original S12s are looking for. Similarly, the Super Mix 4 is just a less technical version of the EM10s. It's also an all-rounder, it's more well balanced, it's less fatiguing when it comes to the treble, the upper mids, the 2K gains, it's less forward in the vocals overall. It's a safer pick, you know, it's a better all-rounder, and it's not going to be as, you know, exciting, lively, and detailed when it comes to treble. It's less dynamic, but the Super Mix 4 will be the better pick for those who are looking for an all-rounder sound. As for the Performer 5+U, these are going to be the complete opposite to the 142s. They're much more laid back, they're less forward, they're less energetic when it comes to the vocals and the treble, with both of them having some planar timbre. Now, if you're eyeing the 5+2, I would personally go for the Synchro or the CKLVX D62 because both are more well-rounded in my opinion, and they're like also very technical. The vocals are better extended and they're also going to be much more engaging while being, you know, pretty balanced as well. Because at mid-volume, those just sound more natural when it comes to the vocals and they don't have planar timbre, whereas the vocals on the 5+2 can be a bit recessed, a bit too buried when it comes to busier tracks, which is why I do prefer them at mid-volume. And then when it comes to like higher volumes, you got the Explorer, you got the Odysseys, you got the Arcadias. So unless you really want a laid back, you know, sound signature with some bass, then I guess you could go for the 5+2, because the 5+2 is basically trying to do a balanced sound with good bass, but there are just better options. For example, the Cinco Tres or the Tangent Origin or even the Dino Quattro, they are better than the 5+2 in my opinion. I would also not recommend the ANVIL. I would choose these and pretty much anything else over the ANVIL because the bone conduction drivers aren't very well implemented on the ANVIL. Go check out my review on that. So all in all, would I recommend the 142? Yes and no depending on your preference. These are still technically great, solid for the price. They're $200. They compete with like $300, $400 sets. If you like the original S12s, you're gonna like the 142s. However, if instead you like the tuning on the newer planars better, like the S15s, the S08, the S12 2024 that has a more relaxed and laid back upper mids gain, then these are gonna be too bright and shouty at higher volumes for you. At mid volume, they don't give me a headache like the Cantor because the vents work and there's no pressure buildup, but I can definitely see how someone can find these like a bit too much, a bit too bright and fatiguing, just like the original S12s, especially at higher volumes. The 142 is basically a less sizzly original S12 with a slightly better tech bump. So if that's what you're looking for, a bright, leaning, exciting, lively technical set, then give these a shot. The build quality is great. It's made out of metal. The cable is pretty nice. It's braided as well. And make sure to use these Senkai Y tips. But yeah, I hope this review was helpful. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck on the giveaway. Go check out the video I made if you need more information about the giveaway. And I'll see everyone in the Timeless 2 review. Shout out to Rorik's Cat, Dom Q, Star Buccaneers, Discal Scaldus, B Urak, Mystic Spoon Attack, Walker Standard, User, Patrick, Polly J, Mr. Gorillas, Anton Risto, Gis Seng Young, Ed Dunlap, Christopher Jackson, Name, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, Ben Thompson, Obi, Triple Well Extended, Wizard, Frickalicious, Andrick, Ricardo, Tapas R, Chucko Norris, Asher, Oh Really, Contain Guava Juice Gains, and Xuan Bak Lee. Thank you guys so much.